Welcome to the past, where you'll get information related to sports, video games, technology, music, and our all-time favorite ass of the week. What is up? What's good, y'all? Episode 214 of The Past is here. I'm your host, BT. I will come clean and let you all know that we have a lot, and I do mean a lot, of topics to discuss this week. I have literally had stories hit my feed or hit news before I could even attempt to hit record. So there are a couple of stories that will be somewhat late breaking, but we will do our best to get every single one of these stories addressed, because I don't want to leave any thought behind, only because it's that much going on right now as far as in the sports world, and that's the simplest and cleanest way to put it. I always like to start off by making sure that everyone is aware. I'm a big believer that we all need help, whether we acknowledge it or accept it is separate, but help is help. So don't turn away help if it's available. One resource that I have found to be very useful is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. If you need to call them for anything related to distress, prevention, and crisis resources. I did share this before. We're winding down September, but this is Suicide Prevention Month. Their number is 1-800-273-8255. So I want to make sure I get that out there before we get going. And I've been kind of slacking a little bit on this, but I'm going to change that, obviously. I want to get some promos done. I will have a promo that's going to be a little later in the show, only because it'll tie into music, and you'll see why when we get to that point. But first things first, I do want to share, if you're looking to get your home clean, any residential or commercial cleaning, I did kind of break on sharing Peachy Clean is with Sherry Winston, but now I reach out to people, and I always like to make sure I keep good rapport, because you never know what does or doesn't happen. But Peachy Clean RVA LLC, that's PEACHIE, cleaning specialist. Like I said, Sherry Winston. Email address is peachycleanrva@gmail.com, and their phone number is 804-726-0366 if you're interested. I have read a couple reviews online. They're getting good reviews for their work. So anything that I'm sharing or presenting, it's me letting you all know that someone's out here doing something of that worthwhile structure. And also, a friend of mine who is a notary, I wanted to make sure I give her some cred, because she was a big part of me getting back into working again. So I wanted to, go ahead and give a shout out to her and her business. The name of her business is iFinancial by Tierra LLC. If you wanted to reach out to her by email, it's mshenderson@ifinancialbytierra.org. You can follow her on Twitter, and that is at TierraH395448557. On Facebook, if you look for Tierra D. Henderson. On Pinterest, it's iFinancial by Tierra LLC. And on Tumblr, it is signature. Let me learn how to read. Sign Agent Tierra. That's SIGN Agent Tierra, TIERRA. And if you're looking to get business with her, as far as if you're looking to get any type of a notary or get anything notarized, that would be my best person to reach out to in regards to that. Podcast shout outs. I haven't done this, so bear with me if it's a little new. I initially had the link for Spotify because I'm turning into a Spotify pusher, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in the show as to why. But a couple of folks who I've kind of grown to love, Ashley, her podcast, she was able to do a resurrection of a podcast, which I think is dope. Name of her new show now is Random Observations with Ash. It is on Anchor. I have the link in the show notes if you would like to check her out. She's doing a show every day, and it's her random observations or her random thoughts as to what's going on in her world. I knew that was coming. I couldn't control it. But anyway, just to kind of give the bio overview, it's a daily podcast hosted by Ashley. Come listen in to one woman's thoughts, observations, and life lessons learned along the way, touching on a variety of subject matter that is sure to inspire you, make you think, or make you laugh. Enjoy random observations. If you're fascinated by hearing other people's perspectives and personal journeys, then you will definitely enjoy this podcast. Think of it as people watching with your best friend or those deep, random, and raw conversations you find yourself having in the wee hours of the morning. I think I'm trying to go down. But anyway, check her out. She's been doing some good shows. She gives a lot of good shout outs. And since she was giving me a lot of shout outs on her show, I wanted to at least return the love. And she's also a co-host with Jazz on the Soul Gab with Ash and Jazz, where they bless your eardrums. They bless your eardrums as they voice ideas and share views on personal experiences on all things health, the metaphysical, and other spiritual life stuff. Ride the roller coaster of life with us. Learn, be entertained, start deepening your own journey, and enjoy. They do their shows on every Wednesday and Saturday. And like I said, I've been rocking with their show for a while. And it's definitely because they do 2 shows a week. Shows are evolving and just coming along just smoothly, and I'm loving that. So it's a big thing, and I'm here to support that by all means. All right, so we're 6 minutes in, and there is a level of sports to jump on. Sports was kind of sports this week. I don't have these, so some articles are going to kind of be improv, but some will be kind of just what's been going on. One story that did break that it didn't break, but it kind of was an eye opener. Bryce Harper posted a picture saying thank you to the fans of the Nationals, kind of being encrypted to make it think he may be leaving. We don't know because he'll be up for free agency. As we all know, winter trades and winter free agency is always a big story. So in a couple of months, we'll be more than likely hearing about if any big names make any moves, him being one of them. NBA right now is at a moot point. Everyone just did media day. I will talk about this story because it could have been somewhat of an ass of the week, but it was a funny story that it happened. Kawhi Leonard, as many of you may recall, I did talk about the story where he was traded to the Toronto Raptors for DeMar DeRozan. Danny Green was part of the trade, and I believe there were some other draft picks involved. Well, they did media day, and they talked with him to ask him a couple of questions. And Kawhi Leonard proved his personality was not the strongest on stage, but I mean, we've seen this since he's been in the NBA. If you go back to when he won his first and current, only NBA championship, there wasn't really, when he was nodded as the Finals MVP, he wasn't really the most jovial or personable person to see winning the award. But hey, it is what it is. But anyway, like I said, I got some other stories that I'll get into, but I wanted to at least give a big attention because we hadn't heard the name in a while. It hadn't made waves in a while, but Tiger did show up and show out. He was able to win the Tour Championship. He made a major comeback. This article was written by Bob Herrick, who is a senior writer for ESPN. The coronation could finally occur as Tiger Woods made his way to the 18th green on Sunday. A remarkable scene as thousands of spectators engulfed him on his walk to victory while chanting and cheering his name as he was about to put the finishing touches on his 80th PGA Tour win. The final round at East Lake was not easy, but it paled in comparison to the treacherous comeback Woods endured in recent years as he tried to recover from multiple back surgeries. That beaming Woods' smile and arms raised in triumph after the final tap-in suggested it was all worth the hardship. A 1 over par 71 was good enough to capture the Tour Championship. the season-ending tournament on the PGA Tour schedule, and one that gave Woods his first victory in more than 5 years. He won by 2 shots over Billy Horschel as Justin Rose captured the season-long FedEx Cup title. I was pretty emotional when Rory McIlroy was tapping out. He was finishing out, Woods said. I looked around and the tournament was over because I'd already put the bunker shot on the green and I'd won 80. 80 is a big number. I've been sitting on 79 for about 5 years now, and to get 80 is a pretty damn good feeling. A birdie at the first hole set the tone for Woods, who increased his lead over playing partner McIlroy and Rose to 4 shots at the point. In much the same manner, he won numerous titles over the years. Woods played smart, methodical golf, doing all he could to limit mistakes while letting others make them. His lead was never less than 2, and it got close only at the 16th hole, where Woods made a bogey while Horschel was already in the clubhouse. And to get more information regarding this match, I'm not gonna read this word for word. Tiger Woods is currently 42. This is a mark. This is a huge mark for golf, and the reason I say it's a huge mark is because if you really look at it, and I'm saying this because y'all know I'm always honest about my show. Golf is one of the few stories that make my podcast. Golf is one of the few stories that would lead my sports side of the podcast. So for me to have that plan or have that put into place that way, from my personal perspective, that's saying a lot, especially when, if you really look at it, the media has been into golf, but the media hasn't been into golf because everyone has been anticipating Tiger to get into Tiger's form. You know, we're used to seeing Tiger make the cut, play Saturday, and play in the red on Sunday with the Nike on Nike, with the TW hat and all that. And if you notice, I mean, it wasn't any different at this event because he still is part of Nike. So Nike didn't remove the sponsorship. We're not going to get into that story again over Kaepernick, but I have a story kind of similar that we'll talk about in a few, to just kind of put it all into perspective of he's a huge brand within golf, whether you want it, whether you're willing to acknowledge it or not. And I think that's important to state only because there's not much we have in golf to talk about that really gives like a huge spark. Tiger always has been a sparking conversation for golf and the community of the golfing community, as I would call it. So props to him for winning, getting that first major in nearly 5 years and kind of putting things behind him. I won't really consider this as a rebrand more so than it is just him continuing his journey of playing. Whether we see him on the senior side, I don't know. I know this is like way down the pike, but there's something that's possibly to be thought of. But just wanted to bring that to light and give it some attention for this week. All right. Weekly picks. Where do I begin without getting mad? Actually, I'm not mad this week. This week was a weird week. The Patriots proved not to pick against them, which is no surprise. The Cowboys didn't disappoint in losing. The Tampa Bay-Pittsburgh game was one of those tough ones because it ended in a touchdown. New Orleans was able to beat Atlanta despite it being a close game. And most of the other games kind of went as expected. My overall record for last week was 8-7. And for the week, since I've been doing the matchups or weekly picks, I'm currently 17-12-1. So we'll go ahead and get this week's picks out of the way before we put the obvious on the table with Minnesota and the Raiders playing. I'm sorry, not the Raiders, the Rams playing. I did kind of see the Rams winning that game, but it actually was a much higher scoring game than I expected. But I didn't pick that game, so that one does not count for or against the matchups this week. So as we always do, let's go ahead and chew up and break down these matchups. I don't get to be biased this week because Carolina has a bye week as well as the Redskins. Bye weeks will be beginning, so you won't I won't have as many opportunities to get wins, but as the saying goes, you got to get them where you can fit them. All right, enough rambling. Let's go ahead and get these picks. Cincinnati at Atlanta. Cincinnati's 2-1. Atlanta's 1-2. I'm gonna take the wild pick. I'm picking Atlanta. Tampa Bay plays Chicago. Both 2-1. Tampa Bay coming off a loss. Somewhat of a short week, but not really. Chicago's been looking good. Khalil Mack's been showing out. Gonna pick Chicago for that game. So far, I've already picked 2 home teams, so this should be fun. Detroit and Dallas, the battle of the 1 and 2s. Don't be mad. I think because last week I'm not trusting it yet, and I believe I might have said this. I'm picking against Dallas if it had occurred, but I'm going to pick Detroit for that game. Buffalo at Green Bay. If it was not in Green Bay, I would be kind of more on the side of Buffalo. But Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers plays pretty good at home, so I'm picking the Packers for that game. The Texans at the Colts. Houston's 0-3, Colts 1-2, picking the Colts. Enough said. Miami against New England. So to put things in perspective, Miami's leading the division. I'm going to just let that marinate for a second while I give a little bit of white noise because I'm still in shock about that. But the Dolphins are 3-0. New England's 1-2, and defense is a concern. They're not sure Josh Gordon is the answer. As of right now, because it's still their first division game, and y'all know how I feel about this division because I still feel like they'll go 6-0, I'm picking New England. Judge me all you want. I don't care. Philly at Tennessee, both 2-1. Mariota's been looking good. This will be Carson Wentz's debut, if I'm not mistaken. If it wasn't last week, weeks come and go. I might be wrong, but I feel like I take that back. His first game was last week. Looked pretty good. They're Super Bowl defending champions right now, so I'm picking the Eagles. Seattle at Arizona, in-town division game. Arizona's been stinking it up, and Seattle's trying to make a little bit of a push, so I'm going to pick Seattle for that game. Cleveland at Oakland. This is going to be probably not the most boring game. Let me rephrase that. This is going to be the hardest game to enjoy because it has potential to be cringeworthy, only based on the teams playing. Do not be upset with me, Raiders fans. I love y'all, but I'm picking Cleveland, which is a shocker because usually I always pick against them by default. San Fran against the Chargers. Normally I'd pick San Fran, but I have a story that will kind of attest to why I'm picking the Chargers this week. So I'm going Chargers in that matchup. New Orleans at the Giants. Saints at Giants. Saints have been looking pretty good. They've kind of been in flow with Carolina, between Carolina and Atlanta. I'm sorry, Carolina and Tampa Bay. They've all three of those teams are 2-1. So it kind of makes it a little bit of a teeter-totter situation. The Giants, we're still trying to get an identity of how they're playing or how they're looking. I'm going to pick the Saints for that matchup. Late night game, one of the favorite rivalries in basketball. In football, Baltimore plays Pittsburgh. Pitt won they won their first game last Monday, as I mentioned earlier. Baltimore's 2-1. It's in Pittsburgh. Something weird has to happen for the Steelers to lose at home. But hey, it's a Sunday night game, so you know how those can turn out. Monday night game, I would probably stretch in saying it's the game of the week. Oh, I am horribly pathetic. I skipped over the Jets and the Jaguars. Jaguars 2-1. Playing some pretty good football this year. Jets have been kind of up in the air. I'm going to take the Jags on this one. And that kind of catches me up. So now for the Monday night game, Kansas City at Denver. Like I said, Kansas City's 3-0. Denver's 2-1. This will be an inter-division battle. I will go ahead and stick with the Chiefs. Their quarterback has been playing pretty good this year. So we'll roll with Kansas for that game. those are my picks. I will be updating the matchups as they occur. I try to stick to an honor system because, I mean, it's me doing it. It's not like I have a reason to cheat in keeping track of scores for games. But anywho, last week, San Francisco did play in their matchup. I forgot who they played. I wanted to say they played the Jags, but I might be wrong. Maybe if I read the article, that might help. But they played the Chiefs, so let's use our brains and think it through. But they played the Chiefs, and it was a very odd play. What happened was his left knee, Jimmy Garoppolo's knee, buckled during a 13-yard run. What he was mainly trying to do was he was trying to run from being tackled, and how he ran out to not get hit was what caused the injury. So it was initially they were uncertain of how serious the injury was, but it was confirmed that it was a season-ending torn ACL. He, left the game in the fourth quarter due to his knee buckling. It was stated that one of the players that he stated that it didn't look good. The 49ers had signed him to a $137.5 million 5-year extension. He had only played 7 games prior to that season, and he's 26 years old. Through his first couple of games, he threw for 718 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 3 picks. San Fran was 1-2. In short term, 49ers are without their starting quarterback, as well as the biggest offseason addition to their offense, Jerick McKinnon. He tore his ACL a week before the regular season got underway. What looked to be one of the NFL's more dynamic offenses is coming unraveled. And before I forget, because I always like to make sure, Joseph Zucker is the writer of this article. When what looked to be one of the NFL's more dynamic offenses becoming unraveled, although Matt Breida and Alfred Morris have done well in McKinnon's absence, San Francisco is now forced to either start C.J. Beathard or sign an outside replacement for Garoppolo. Beathard threw for 1,430 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 6 picks in 7 appearances last year. The injury did shadow over the Niners in the long term. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a 27-year-old quarterback coming off of a torn ACL, costing $20 million against the cap with 361 pass attempts when he opens next season as the 49ers starting quarterback. They're not going to cut him or look to go in a different direction from next year, but the torn ACL adds more risk to the contract that was one of the biggest in history. His annual salary was $27.5. So I'm going to say it because everyone's going to dodge it, but it's kind of obvious. This proves that they're holding a huge L in dealing with not acknowledging that they could go for Kaepernick. And I'm not even going to say it's tough. It's ironic yet interesting that we've reached this point with football, because you have a player who's available or a good quarterback who's available, but they don't want to touch him or they don't want to deal with him, despite how big of a brand he's become and how beneficial he's also become to the NFL, whether it's realized or not. So, I'm wishing Garoppolo a speedy recovery. Of course, with the NFL, ACLs, they don't like to treat lightly because, you don't want to have somebody come back and not be at 100% just for the sake of trying to make the playoffs or possibly have a chance to win the Super Bowl. And I use possibly very leniently in that term. Since we're on the subject, and this is just an ironic situation, as I mentioned earlier, or as we talked about, as I just literally said about Kaepernick being available, one of his most notable moments was during the national anthem, where he and safety Eric Reid were seen kneeling during the national anthem before an NFL game against the Cowboys back on October 2nd, 2016. So let this sink in. That's been 2 years. 2 years since that happened. And Kaepernick's out of a job. Eric Reid was out of a job for a while. And it was, the news did break yesterday that he was signed to the Carolina Panthers. His return to the NFL created a buzz around the league on Thursday. And this article was written by Steve Reed, who is an AP Associated Press sports writer. There was huge buzz around the league on Thursday, 6 months after he filed grievance against collusion by the NFL to prevent teams from signing him because of his participation in racial injustice protests during the national anthem alongside former San Fran quarterback or teammate Colin Kaepernick. Some NFL players were excited about the 2013 Pro Bowl safety signing a one-year deal with the Panthers, but they were quick to point out they believe Kaepernick should be back in the league as well. Kaepernick, as Kaepernick would do, congratulated Reid on Twitter, saying Reid should have been signed the first day of free agency. He was the first person to kneel alongside me. Eric is a social justice warrior, continues to support his family and communities in need. Browns running back Carlos Hyde, who played with Reid and Kaepernick in San Fran, was stunned to hear his former teammate had been picked up by the Panthers. Hyde said, "For real, following the practice with Cleveland, I'm so happy for him. It's been too long. I kind of felt like they was doing him the same way they were doing Cap. So it's good to see E. Reid got signed, and Cap should definitely be up next. It will be a good thing then." Michael Bennett said it's about time. His grievancy, as for Reid, who had filed a grievancy, he was mummed during the hoopla on Thursday, declining comment through the Panthers and not weighing in on social media except to retweet Kaepernick. He said in March that he doesn't plan to protest during the national anthem this season. The Panthers have a bye week this week, as I mentioned earlier, but their next game is on the 7th of October against the Giants. All right. Reid is a huge pickup. Not going to deny or take away from that whatsoever. Now it's time for the NFL to turn their special moments off and think about the importance of just priority. And priority is let them play. That's the nicest way to put it. Like, he's not causing that much of an impact to the game. I don't understand. Maybe I guess I'm looking at it from the media perspective a little bit, but also looking at it from the common sense perspective of he's not causing that much of a take. He's not taking that much attention away from your sport. As far as Colin Kaepernick, the NFL made money regardless of how people do or don't see it. And if you aren't looking at it as such, then you're missing what football has always been known for being, and will continue to be, which is its own brand, aka a business. Reid was delayed on being picked up because there was the concern of whether he would draw or generate attention. I'll be honest, if Kaepernick was to come in and if he still continued taking a knee, if fans decide not to support watching the sport because of him taking a knee, then they really don't understand football as a whole. I've talked about this on my show numerous times. Even if he does or does not take a knee, we weren't watching this. We never really were watching football to see the national anthem. Half the people who watch football at home don't even stand during the national anthem. They're sitting at home. They might go to the bathroom or something. Oh, you standing up at the toilet. Okay, you standing up for the national anthem. Got it. Cool. All right, bro, I see you. But it's not causing the wave or causing that much attention to be made as big of a deal as it has been. So hopefully Kaepernick gets in the league. It's good that Eric Reid is in. I don't think he's going to be as big of an attention. I know it's not going to happen, but it would be beneficial if media just left him alone and let him play football. That's the important factor here. Because even with Kaepernick, I believe, wants to play football, but I also realize it's not a cut and dry, open and shut case, if that's a good way to put it. All right. Adam Wells broke this story this morning through Twitter. And this one it's unexpected for me. As we all know, the big Aristotle, the big Diesel, the big Cactus, whatever name you want to give him. Shaquille O'Neal, his son Shareef O'Neal, had committed to UCLA. And there was the chance that, and I think I'm going to be 100% honest before I read the story. I don't think Shareef had intentions of leaving after his first year anyway. But now with all that's going on, the story did break that he is going to miss his freshman season at UCLA because of a heart problem. He's going to have surgery to correct the issue that was discovered when the UCLA doctors were conducting a routine checkup. O'Neal stated that he was glad that the UCLA medical staff caught it earlier. During rehab, he'll be attending classes and being a normal student. He'll be back in no time. He did sign his letter of intent to play at UCLA back in August, adding another marquee name to one of the nation's best freshman classes for the 2018-19 season. Steve Alford stated that Shareef has made great strides throughout his high school career. He's an outstanding addition to our incoming class and brings a terrific combination of size, skill, and athleticism. We love the length and height of this year's team, and Shareef is really going to add to that dynamic. He has a terrific frame, one that will allow him to continue improving on both sides. He was a 4-star prospect who would rank number 8 in the power forwards and number 41 overall in the 2018 recruiting class. Before committing to UCLA, he had led Crossroads High to a 25-9 record during the senior year. It's a tough blow for UCLA, but it's also a good thing that they were able to find it early and not have any other situations have happened, such as, if y'all remember if you've been watching basketball for years back, Reggie Lewis was a big name. He had a heart condition that, caused him to die while he was playing. And I'm not saying it that abruptly, but there are those who, if anything related to heart, and I guess I'm speaking on this from a personal standpoint because it's kind of making me think about what's going on with me in my life, as far as with my family and with one of my parents having a pacemaker done. It's something that you don't want to treat lightly. So they're treating this and getting it early, especially at 18, and while he's at UCLA. He's at one of the top schools for medical and health. So he's in a good place, and he's also going to be able to have the resources to still be able to get an education because he's still on scholarship with the school. So it's a win-win across the board. And, not to put it mildly, this ain't about Shaq. This is about Shareef and his health and coming back to play. I said this at the beginning of this story, and I'm going to stick to saying it. He likely was not planning to go pro anyway, but I think this solidified the decision of whether he was or wasn't planning to go pro. So I'm okay with this, occurring. All right. So, and I'm glad I put these stories in order because I almost mixed it up. This is our segue from sports. We're going to go into stuff. Like I said, music session is going to be intense. I'm going to really try to be detailed, but not aggressive in detail with those stories. But we're on our sports side. And this story actually broke a few days ago as well, at the beginning of this week, actually. And this article was written by Arjun Panchadar and Vibhuti Sharma. And this is from Reuters that this article was shared. That Sirius XM is going to be buying Pandora, the music streaming service, for $3.5 million. Or $3.5 billion streaming push. Now, there's a very detailed process to this, and I'll explain this in the article. Or it's explained in the article, rather. Satellite radio company Sirius XM Holdings Incorporated will buy online music service Pandora Media Inc. in a $3.5 billion all-stock deal that will help it battle growing competition from streaming rivals Spotify and Apple Music. SiriusXM, which is controlled by media mogul John Malone's Liberty Media Corporation, has built a name supplying more than 175 channels to car drivers, but has largely trailed Pandora, Spotify Technology SA, and Apple in mobile and streaming content. Before I continue, it's ironic because Tidal isn't in this conversation, but Tidal is one of the big names too. Monday's deal gives the payer market value the payer a market value of about $34 billion, topping Spotify's $31.2 billion, and follows through on Sirius's purchase of a 15% preferred stock stake in Pandora for $480 million last year. It's all a business move. This is from the end user's perspective. We're not going to really, people who use Pandora aren't going to really feel a hit of this. We view the read through to Spotify as slightly negative, as it could face a stronger competitor in the US, while at the same time, one of the only large swaths of ad-supported listeners in the fast-maturing US goes off the market. And this was stated by Matthew Thornton, who is an analyst with SunTrust. Sirius shares, however, have fell 4.2% to $6.69 a share, as investors worried the company had overpaid. Shares in Pandora, which had posted losses for at least the past 8 quarters, rose 6.5% to $9.68 in early trading, slightly below an offer value of $10.05 based on Sirius's Friday closing price. The deal, which is worth $2.68 billion at the offer price, is expected to generate more than $7 billion in expected pro forma revenue in 2018. Analysts said the two businesses were largely complementary. Siri cannot offer on-demand radio and cannot offer customization, and Pandora offers both, said Michael Pachter, an analyst with Wedbush Securities in Los Angeles. And by the way, Siri is not Siri's in what people use on their Apple devices. Siri is the known name for their stock market name. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, Pandora is P. And they just give some more information regarding the merger or the buyout. So, like I said, it's not going to be anything interface-based that will be seen on the surface, but it will more so help Pandora get some more, I guess, attention as far as with streaming. Because if you really look at it, everyone doesn't own equipment or cars that can play Sirius radio. Everyone has mobile devices. Everyone has streaming devices in their homes. Most streaming devices are going to handle Pandora. My speaker, which I'm not going to say names because I know it's turned on, but my speaker is able to, if I state to it to play a certain station from Pandora, it will. So those features are part of what makes what makes the whole full circle beneficial for this move. So we talked about Sirius and we talked about Pandora's and their dance. Spotify was able to get their ball rolling, and this story was shared by Danny Deal about now letting artists directly upload music to the platform. This is probably going to be said in an article, but I'm going to share it anyway. Apple gives you that option. Most people, as we all know, everyone shares SoundCloud links where you could go in and you could upload your music and then say, hey, check out this song, blah, 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 whatever. Apple has that feature where if you want to get your music out there, you can. As we all know, with artists creating music or music being generated, you'll typically have it where an album is expected to come out at midnight. How the artist, or I guess whoever works for the artist to do so, it's all a matter of pulling a trigger and just stating, hey, put this song on these streaming sources. I'm going to go back to saying this and then I'll go into this article because then I won't talk about it. When Teyana Taylor was expected to bring out what we expected her to be her official album, everyone was sitting at midnight waiting. When is the album dropping? When is the album dropping? Last night, I know for me, it didn't happen directly at midnight, or it could have been, I kind of went a different way, but it worked. But Lil Wayne's album, the expectations and the wait for that were huge. So same, nothing, it's not really too big of a difference, but it was different because it was something, we least expected. But anyway, Spotify announced that they're doing a beta feature that will allow independent artists to upload music directly to the platform instead of through a label or digital aggregator. Typically, artists who aren't signed to major labels, which can directly upload music to Spotify, have to pay a fee to a third-party service like TuneCore to upload their music to Spotify. This feature will be contained within the service's existing Spotify for Artists platform, which, among other things, allows artists to view data about their listeners and directly submit their songs for editorial playlist consideration. The new upload feature won't work like SoundCloud, where songs can be instantly available. Instead, Spotify views it as a way for artists to have control of their own music in advance of its release date. Those who are part of the program will be shown an interface where they can upload their music and accompanying artwork, pick a release day, input additional information like if it's a single or an album, and then preview how it will look once published. Direct upload is being offered as a free service. The company recommends artists in the program upload content at least 5 days ahead of planned release, which will help Spotify make sure that it doesn't contain potentially infringing content. It will also cross-check to make sure the same content isn't being delivered to Spotify through other partners, aka avoiding duplicates, and it will allow users to utilize Spotify's built-in analytics and page customization tools. And they give you a screen showing how it works. Based on payments for the artists who upload directly to Spotify, Kine Anoliefo told The Verge that the company will offer artists 50% of Spotify's net revenue and 100% of royalties for songs they upload. We created a pretty simple and fair deal for uploading music where artists receive 50% of Spotify's net revenue, and Spotify also accounts to publishers and collection societies for additional royalties related to the musical composition. Artists will receive automatic monthly royalty checks. They will be able to view all of that information and check their data within Spotify for artists. This is pretty fair shake considering Spotify's agreement with Universal Music Group sees a payout range of 52 to 55%. And let's see. And then they give a little bit more information regarding it. So this is huge. And I'm going to give a podcast story too, because I want to make sure I share that before I forget. At least this is with Spreaker. They're giving creators who are musicians their opportunity to shine or show up and show out, which is mainly what most artists are trying to do anyway. And I feel like this is that step in the right direction, aka the first step towards bigger and better, I guess you can call it. The creativity is in the hands of the creator. And as musicians, it's not easy to get your work out there. And I'm saying from a musical standpoint, even with me not doing music, it's no different than doing podcasting. If someone knows you're doing it and they hear it, if someone knows you're making an album, there are those who are going to support you, and there are those who are going to be in your corner for what you're doing. And then there's the side of it where you have to really get on your grind and let people know that you're a singer or that you're a performer. And this is a good way to get that ball going. Keep in mind also that this is in beta. There's a strong chance if they roll this, and they didn't mention also if this does roll out as a public feature, it could have a great impact on the indie music market, which has been burgeoning in the public eye, arguably since Chance the Rapper gave a shout out to SoundCloud at the 2017 Grammys. Spotify is the biggest music subscription platform in the market, which is reporting 83 million paid subscribers as of July and a total base of around double that when including free accounts. Big stuff. So Spotify is going in the right direction. Joe Budden talked about this. I don't know why I'm saying Joe like I formerly know him, but Joe Budden talked about this on this podcast, and I'll say it here. Spotify is taking that angle of bringing their platform to light because they wanted to not just be seen as, okay, you can do this and that's it. Like most people, when they think of Spotify, they think of good playlists, listening to good music, vibing, and that's it. Spotify has the option, as we just mentioned, with your music, as far as being able to upload your own music, various apps. I can't confirm other sites. I know for Spreaker, it's a new thing where your metrics, as far as any listens or uploads through Spotify, will be shared to you as a listener. As a podcast creator. And that's huge. Like those little things make a big difference. And that's no different for an artist making music. If they're making music, then they want to know, hey, how did this song do? How is this album playing? I want to get that information. And it's helpful to have that right there, in your face. And it kind of gives you a measurement of what you do, what you may need to work on, what you may not need to work on, things of that nature. All right. PlayStation 4 has decided to finally play nice with Fortnite. Fortnite beta is live for cross-platforms. Sony has announced that cross-platform play between PlayStation 4 and other platforms is coming to Fortnite. The first of these party titles, I'm going to read this article as it's being shared, and we'll get into it a little bit. And this article was written by Tamor Hussein, and this was written literally at 3:00 this morning. Or may have been more than likely updated since this morning. Let me just double check, because they must have added something that was probably an update, but I don't see it. Okay, cool. Sony has announced that cross-play between PlayStation 4 and other platforms is coming to Fortnite. In a statement posted on the PlayStation blog, Sony Interactive Entertainment said it has identified a path towards supporting cross-platform features for select third-party content. The first of these third-party titles is Fortnite, and an open beta has begun that allows for gameplay, progression, and commerce across PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, Nintendo Switch, Mac, Android, and iOS. We recognize that PS4 players have been eagerly awaiting an update, and we appreciate the community's continued patience as we have navigated through this issue to find a solution. We see that the beta is an opportunity to conduct thorough testing that ensures cross-platform play is best on PlayStation, while being mindful about the user experience from both a technical and social perspective. PlayStation goal is to do it right. I really am not going to read this whole story because it's kind of black and white, literally. PlayStation has always tried to do right. I don't own a PlayStation only because my console conversion happened when it did. But PlayStation always made it about the gaming. I'm sharing this because I want people to understand something very important about gaming as a whole. Gaming's focus goes two different directions when it comes to console gaming, at least on the Xbox and PlayStation side. Do not take this the wrong way on either side of this console owning. PlayStation and Sony are going to give you the objective of playing a game. Bottom line. They're not expecting you to do media. They're not expecting you to stream to the extent of no return. They eventually blended in and caught on to the Elgato and the capture card options and being able to allow people to stream without only doing it through their console. Because they primarily are focused on you gaming and gaming with others and getting into your games. That's why when Call of Duty made the switch from Xbox to PlayStation, it worked out seamlessly. Because a lot of people use the platform itself, the Sony console, for the gaming, and they use programs such as Discord to chat with other friends, so they're not in in lobbies hearing all this foolishness. Xbox, aka Microsoft, whatever, is the media portion. The music, the videos, the movies, the Twitch streams, Mixer. Gonna say it because I really need to emphasize this to y'all. Mixer is not coming out of... Let me calm down. Mixer is not coming out of Xbox's hands, meaning you're not going to see it on PlayStation. You're going to see it on computers. You can access it online. There is an app, if I'm not mistaken, available, but there's not going to be a major push of trying to make this a big deal. And I think people need to really understand that from Mixer's perspective. So PlayStation doing this is what we expect for Fortnite. I think Fortnite's going to be a great game. Fortnite we're in season 6 now. The game is official. You know, the beta part of the accessibility for cross platforms is here. So it's a big step. I'm not really read this article, but I did share it. And this was one we did. I did tweet or talk with Nick Stat regarding one of his articles. So the article about how to tie your PlayStation Link Fortnite account to Nintendo Switch, they did give you a little bit of a how-to and the process of doing so. So you're able to read that at your own and your earliest convenience. All right. NBA 2K League update. I'll just put it as that'll be the best way to term it or describe it. As we talked about on the show a couple of weeks ago, I believe, I wanted to say it was in episode 200. I'm sitting here like I had just, because I had the article up and I literally removed it. I'll go ahead and find it now when I'm sitting here and can have the brain cells to remember because I'm special. Let's see. All right. Episode 202, which was literally 12 episodes ago. Episode 202, we did bring this article up, and I have it listed with me again so I can bring it to light now. NBA 2K had announced the expansion or the plans of expanding its league. They were going to add 4 teams to the league. The new teams that were being added were the Atlanta Hawks, the Brooklyn Nets, LA Lakers, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Cool. They were added, which then led to the upcoming draft for the expansion teams. They were able to complete that feat most recently. And you have a couple of new faces who are being joined with different teams. And I'm kind of slow on reading the story only because I want to make sure I give the information correctly as to who went where and what went down. Dat Boy Shots was taken Wednesdays and as the first player in what we're considering as the first NBA 2K League expansion draft. He's going to be joining the Hawks. And then there were a couple of trades that did occur. As far as the players who were moved, like I said, Dat Boy Shots was picked up. Nate Cal was picked up by Nets Gaming Club. He had previously played for the New York Knicks. He was the Finals MVP. O'Leary was picked up by T-Wolves Gaming Club. Then he was later traded to the Cavs Legion Gaming Club for Hood or Brandon Caicedo. Now, some of the names, I'm going to go ahead and give you a heads up. A lot of people are going to give their gaming names that they go by on the game, on for the 2K community. Hood had missed a lot of time due to personal issues. He was a big name, and he's been a big name in the tournament based on scoring. So he was picked up. The Lakers Gaming picked up Moody, who was with Kings Gaming, or Kings Guard Gaming. The Lakers then picked up Control, who was also who had been a former first round pick. He had been benched for the final game of the season by Magic Gaming. The T-Wolves Gaming Club then picked up iFeast. Nets Gaming picked up Oshaki. And Hawks Tailing Guard or Gaming Club picked up Arsenal. And then this will be kind of the closeout. Of all the players not selected in the expansion draft, Warriors Gaming Vert was probably the biggest surprise. He was the team's most consistent performer all season, but now we'll have to wait to see if it brings him back, or he'll have to wait on the traditional draft to find a home in season 2. Also, in other trade rumblings, Cohen is reporting Pistons Gaming Club is moving their first round pick from season 1. Let's get it, Ramo. But there's no specification on his landing spot as of yet. And this article was written by Brian Mazik, who is a contributor with Forbes. So that's kind of the overall story for that. And a big name, or one of the names that stood out in this article, was O'Leary, or Timothy O'Leary Anselmo. To many people, you may not have a clue. If you're not in the gaming community, be like, okay, who's that? But he actually was at the Madden tournament back on August 26th. As we talked about on the show, in Jacksonville, Florida, there was a shooting at that event. He will be continuing his gaming career despite being shot in the chest, hip, and the hand, which would have been considered as a career-ending injury. According to reports, Anselmo will be traded to the Cavaliers, which I mentioned earlier. Throughout the summer of 2018, he competed for Bucks Gaming with the Milwaukee Bucks in the inaugural season of the NBA 2K League. This article was written by Jacob Wolf, by the way. The Bucks notified him that they would not pick up his second-year option on September 4th after the shooting, leaving the fate of his esports career in the balance. And then they kind of go over the information regarding the shooting itself, which I'm not going to talk about that again. Anselmo sustained 3 gunshot wounds, which left his thumb detached from his hand, and he underwent 2 different surgeries on the hand on the 27th and the 29th at University of Florida Health Jacksonville Hospital. He told ESPN earlier this month that his physical therapist anticipates he will have 90% function in his hand by December. So that's progress, only because, and working in the medical field, I 100% can see the benefit of that, because it is a big deal, especially when you are trying to get, back into your craft or into your skill. He was and they, like I said, they give the information about the shooter in regards to that, but I'm not going to give him any attention as I stuck to before. So that's good that he's going to have the opportunity to play and get a chance. Hopefully he's able to, step up, do his part, and play, to his best potential, despite that occurring. Evernote made the podcast. Don't get too excited. But Evernote is on the list because they've added a feature known as templates. Now, how this works is if you open up, and I have the article. I'm not going to really read A to Z the article itself. I'm going to just kind of tell you the simplest way of handling this with Evernote. If you open up any new notes in Evernote, or if you create a new note in Evernote, it's going to give you an option to, at the top, you'll be able to see select a template. Now, there are already templates that are in Evernote that you can use for free with the basic Evernote account. Now, if you have a premium account or a business account, you have the ability and the opportunity to create your own templates. Many of the templates that are on here are phenomenal. And I'm only saying I'm using phenomenal loosely, but they are very good templates. For creative writing, they have what's called character profile. One is called story dashboard. One is called story premise worksheet. Under getting things done, areas of responsibility, individual project, weekly review. Maintain focus so you can keep moving forward and upward. If you're into project management, they have project budget and project overview. School, anyone that's in school, if you're not using Evernote, you're missing out. You can take notes to get better grades in class. They have what's called Cornell Notes, which is a proven format for taking effective notes. And it also gives you the ability, they also bring up the idea, because a lot of people forget to use this with Evernote. This is an important thing with Evernote. And I'm saying this with such aggression and emphasis because it's not utilized enough. Evernote does have the ability to record. You can record voice recordings and save them in Evernote. And they will they'll carry over wherever you are, wherever you use Evernote. So if you aren't using it now, get in the habit of using Evernote. You will thank me later. That's the cleanest and the simplest way I can put it. Music set, right at the 1 hour mark. And I had a call, but I'm going to get back to that in a bit. All right. First things first, because it is a single, I'm going to talk about it as it being first. I got presented that Daisha McBride brought out the new single Cake Up, which I like. I was able to listen to it. It's kind of like it's a good motivational, like get you going. If you're working and you need some motivation to get you like make some money, hey, wake up, go and get the cake up, period. And then it's other lyrics, it's lyrics within that, obviously. All right. So I'm not gonna really hold y'all. There are other albums that I need to still listen to, so I have a lot of listening to do. It looks like Muse has a new EP. I'm loving that. Gonna check that out soon. The 2 albums that I have listened to today that I'm gonna give my quick drive, whatever you want to call it, and then we'll get into the rest of the stuff that I have. The Carter 5 was released last night or this morning at midnight. I'm impressed. Now, I'm going to say this to people who are going to be critics or have thoughts to or against the Carter 5. If you're not, and I'm going to start with this because I think it's important. If you're not a Lil Wayne fan, don't force yourself to listen to the album. If you're not a big music fan, don't force yourself to listen to the album. I think by nature we try to go along with the flow of music, but we also fail to realize if it ain't you, it ain't you. And I never expect anyone to push themselves into listening to music, because then that makes the listening a little more discomforting. That's my hot take. I told someone else, my friend Ashley, who I talked about earlier with Random Observations with Ash, she gave it an 8. I personally gave it a 7.5. The challenge by nature for those who are Lil Wayne fans are that they're expecting to compare it to the Carter 3. Carter 4 wasn't a huge album at the time. Carter 3 was one of those that when it came out, people still talk about the Carter 3 to this day, just to put it in perspective. So I like the Carter 5. There are a lot of tracks that I like listening to. The last track was my favorite. That one, I think, sticks with me pretty closely. It was called Let It All Work Out. Let It All Work Out was pretty good. Nivea made an appearance, which I was surprised. Ashanti's cameo, Dope Niggas with Snoop was on here. Famous Regine Carter was on there. Mona Lisa's a pretty good track. Let It Fly is not bad. Don't Cry was a hard one because I really was picking up on the message, especially with it featuring Tentacion. Rest in peace. So that's my quick fix on the Carter 5. I'm emphasizing this. If it's not your cup of tea, don't force it to be a cup of tea. That's literally where I'm at about that. YSIV Logic's album, I delayed recording the podcast just to listen to the last bit of the album, just so I can make sure I listen to everything. Iconic with Jaden Smith was pretty good. My two tracks right now are Wu-Tang Forever, which pretty much has like the whole wave. Like you got everybody on this track from Wu-Tang practically. And 100 Miles and Running due to me being a Lil Wayne fan. Not sure what that was. But yeah, that's kind of my listen, or that's kind of my flow for those albums. Someone else gave me the option of saying Everybody Dies and The Return were theirs. Thank You is a pretty good track. Listen to Thank You, prepare for a nostalgic moment. That's all I'm going to say. If you're following my personal page on Brights82, you'll see the reference and get it for Instagram. I promised that I would share this before, and I didn't, so I'm going to make up for it now. A friend of mine, or one of my former coworkers, did recommend an album or a single to check out. It's called Eartight. It's by PT and Fanran. Now I have the single listed on the show notes. Like if you go to the page that's shared in the show notes, you have a button that you can play it. You can listen to it online with no problem. But what I would do is you can listen to it for a little bit, but then go and actually watch the video. The video for the song is actually pretty good. And that video is, if you go to the bottom of the page, you'll see number 3. I'm hoping that's for that same track. Okay, if it's not, I did find it. But there is a video, and it might be Ain't Made My Way. But even still, like, just check out this artist. I'm gonna work harder on local artists because that's a new thing for me. But I also want to get music exposed because I think that's key to listening and enjoying music as a whole. That's just my quick fix about that. All right. I have 2 asses of the week and I have a pass of the week. And the pass of the week, I was blown away because I literally didn't expect to share the story. But when a story happens, you got to break it. So, this story came up on my news feed through World News Daily Report, and let me make sure, okay, because I'm gonna go on a limb and say that this is a real story. In Bowling Green, Kentucky, there was a Kentucky teenager. Well, I'm gonna read the title of the article, and then I'm gonna read the subtitle of the article and read a little bit of the article itself. Teen on female Viagra crashes into building while masturbating to gear shift. Just let that sink in. A Kentucky teenager who crashed her parents' vehicle into the house of a citizen of Warren County has admitted she was under the influence of alcohol, ecstasy, and counterfeit female Viagra. The 17-year-old, whose name has not been disclosed by authorities, told officials she had lost control of the parked vehicle after she had an uncontrollable urge to masturbate, according to the official Bowling Green Police Department report. The young woman allegedly lost control of the parked vehicle after inserting her gear shift inside her vagina in what she described herself as an ultimate attempt to stop being horny. It seems apparent the intake of alcohol and drugs were responsible for this person to be extremely sexually aroused and partake in sexual intercourse with the gear shaft and lose control of the vehicle, Deputy Sheriff Jeff Maloney told reporters. I should never have allowed her to leave the party in that state, but she kept rubbing her genitals on every doorknob. She was totally out of control, one friend of the teenager told a reporter when reached by phone. The teenager, who had indulged in several drugs and alcohol at a local party the night of the accident, was told by a number of people to leave after she was acting like a cat in heat and rubbing her ass on the floor, according to another attendee of the party. The young woman, who was brought into the Bowling Green Medical Center for medical attention early in the morning, showed no sign of health complications, said doctors. Under Kentucky state law, the minor's driver's license will be revoked until she turned 18 and may be required to attend mandatory alcohol or drug treatment. All I want to know is, what do you take to get you to that point? And then it's bad enough you took counter. I'm still trying. I think what sticks to me with this story is the fact that it was counterfeit female Viagra. Why are you even dealing with something of that to that extreme? Like, that's the part for me that I'm like stuck on. I mean, you that much in heat. You can just go like, all right, unfiltered time. I'm warning you now. You could have just got a dildo and just got off and kept it moving. Something, but to sit down there and use a gear and you pretty much put your whole vagina in jeopardy. No, your pussy in jeopardy is not worth it. Like that's just is no. You rubbing, they say, rubbing your genitals, your genitalia. Wow. I don't even know where or how to even put this one in perspective, but hey, it happened. So that's why I made our Ass of the Week number 1. Ass of the Week number 2 goes to Tristan Thompson. Tristan Thompson believes that the Cavaliers, without LeBron, is still the best team to beat in the East. His comment, which this article was written, it just shows it's written by ESPN. It states, we're still 4-time Eastern Conference champions. So until you take us down from that, teams ain't got much to say. Boston, Philly, they ain't got much to say. Boston had home court game 7 and lost. Philly, you guys almost got swept. Toronto, we already know that story. So until someone takes us down, there's not much they can really say. Let's keep in mind you had one of the best players on the planet on your team at nearing the end of his career, still playing the best basketball, and he's no longer on your team, and you're expecting to make these moves just work out and come together on their own. Okay. I think I'm going to say this. I feel like Cleveland will make the playoffs. At the most, I see them as a 6 or a 7 seed. That's me talking just overall. I feel like Washington's going to wake up again this year. Boston or Toronto. See, Toronto, I could say is a 1 seed, but the only thing is we don't know which Kawhi Leonard we're going to get. I don't know if I'm going to get the animated attempt in the lab Kawhi, or if we're going to get Kawhi doesn't want to play. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to let my camp handle it. Whichever Kawhi we get is going to be important as to what happens for this season. Boston, you got Gordon Hayward coming back. Their starting 5 is still lethal. You have Jaylen Brown, Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, Jason Tatum, and Al Horford. That's a pretty stacked lineup on any, in any NBA game or any real life game you playing. You still have Philly with, we're trusting the process. Markelle Fultz may not play a lot of games this year. I'm just going to say it now. He's not eligible, and before anybody thinks about it, he's not eligible to go into the Rookie of the Year conversation for next year, despite him not playing this year, because he still played some games. So that's all I'm gonna say on that story. And there were some quotes stated by other players. Marcus Morris, the brother of Markieff Morris, who plays for the Celtics, stated, "Cut it out, get that vacation ready early this year. Fam. Ain't shit going through the Cavs this year. Facts." And Ben Simmons stated, I don't know why they have him as a guard, but Ben Simmons stated, yeah, okay, buddy, see you soon. And he tweeted that directly to Tristan Thompson. All right, final story, and then we're going to wrap up. I don't really like sharing this story because this is a pass of the week. And this actually happened this morning. Tom Shad of USA Today wrote this article stating that an LSU basketball player was shot and killed early Friday morning. Wade Sims, who's a junior forward and Baton Rouge native, was taken to a hospital with a apparent gunshot wound shortly after midnight and later died due to his injury. He was 20 years old. "We are all devastated," Coach Will Wade said in a statement. "We need your prayers for Wade, for his family, for all of us. We are heartbroken." Police say the shooting occurred at approximately 12:25 on a street just south of Southern University, which is located north of downtown Baton Rouge near a turn in the Mississippi River. The investigation, which is ongoing, classifies Sims' death as a homicide. He was a 6'6" forward and a kinesiology major. He started 10 games last year for LSU, averaging 5.6 points and 2.9 boards. He grew up in Baton Rouge and was named the Louisiana Gatorade Player of the Year following his junior season at high school. His father also played basketball at LSU. Wade Sims' loss is simply unbelievable. It's simply unbelievable to us right now. There are no words that can express our sorrow for his parents and family. He was such a lovable young man who was full of joy. We are circling around his teammates and friends who need all the love and support we can give them. We are praying for his family, for his parents. God bless Wade Sims. And to add to that, I'm looking at my levels on this part. Anytime I talk about anyone who's died or who's killed or whatever, it's tough. And it's kind of even more challenging to look at it as it's automatically already looked at as potentially being a homicide. So that says a lot. I just, wish his family and friends the best, because I know that's not something that anyone wants to wake up and deal with. Someone shared this as a status, and I'm sharing this as a general thought because I think sometimes we don't do this enough. Check on those who need to be checked on, because sometimes everybody claims to carry themselves like they are right, and in reality they're not. So friends check on friends. Make sure friends are okay. We may not do it on a consistent basis, but times when it matters could be that time when you might stop them from doing something that could personally harm or injure themselves. That's what I'm gonna leave y'all with today. I'm doing better with my hour mark. I knew this one was gonna be a little lengthier because there was a lot of content and a lot of stuff to get into from sports, but I wanted to at least give some light to a couple of things and also share news as it has occurred. So thank you all for tuning in. Continue to keep listening. Shows are uploaded each week on Spreaker.com. If you're looking to invest in a microphone, Blue Yeti microphone is where it's at. And until next time, y'all take it easy. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to get any information specifically based on the shows, you can go to Spreaker.com/BriTapePodcast or go to www.passpodcast.com. On both of those options, you do have the information related to what topics were talked about, the timestamps for the episode, as well as the specific links related to that specific story. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, the Pass signing out.